The following is the extract of a course linked in the description.
All right, guys, let's discuss computers, right? So, chances are, if you are looking at this video, you have a computer or you're in front of a computer, right? Or you own a computer. But when it comes to music production, it could be that the computer that you have might not be adequate as far as configuration in order to make music, right? So music production is a process that's resource intensive. It does ask a lot more of the computer in general. So it's going to be more intensive than browsing the net, right? Visiting some website out there, watching videos on YouTube, sending messages, whether on Slack or iMessage or any of those things. It's gonna ask a lot more resources for it. And the thing is, sorry, depending on the kind of project that you're working on, it could be that just because it's really resource intensive, you're really not able to do anything. So what we're gonna look at here is part of the configuration that you should be selecting when you if you decide to buy a new computer, whether it is brand new or whether it is second hand. So you're really setting yourself up for working when you're on a project and also in the future. So you could get either Mac or Windows. I'm on a Mac. I think I've been using Mac for probably 15 years or something like that. Before I was on Windows, but I was getting a lot of the blue screen. There was a blue screen. It seems like it's a lot better now, but back in the days there was a blue screen. That was kind of like an error that was showing up. And when you were working on some of project back then, there wasn't auto save, and basically you would be working on something great. You feel like you're getting somewhere, and then everything just crashed. You're not able to you haven't saved it. You're not able to get it back, right? So when I switched to Mac, it's just a lot more stable, right? Uh, there are errors, but it's really rare, right? I could probably count the number of errors that I've had over the past 15 years. However, on Windows, it was just constant, right? So you could either get Mac or Windows, and the thing is, because we're gonna be using FS Studio, and I believe FS Studio is probably the best when it comes to music production and electronic music, right? Is probably the best software, right? I'm really I'm really confident on that. Um, when it comes to recording, you probably have some other options there. When I say recording, if you're really recording live instruments, live bands, guitars, that kind of stuff, orchestra, then yeah, it might not be best suited for you either. You would probably do well to go with Pro Tools or to go with Logic or maybe some other option. But yeah, but as far as producing music production for like hip hop, pop, R&B, electronic music, dubstep, those kind of things, you have a MIDI keyboard controller, FL Studio. And FL Studio is great as well because you could use it on Mac and Windows, right? So over here, let's look at some things on Mac. I'm just gonna go. Usually that's the one that I select, a MacBook Pro. And it's because I do a lot of things on my computer. I work there, businesses, and all those other things. So for me, it works well to go with a MacBook Pro. You have different options. I'm not gonna actually select to tell you one specific, but what I'm gonna talk about here is yeah. What I'm going to talk about here is just discuss a little bit some of the options that we have there, right? So depending on your budget, because I don't know the budget, so I can't really go into, if not that this video is going to be way too long. Just depending on your budget, but keep those couple things in mind. So what's going to really influence the performance of your computer is going to be the chipset, the RAM, to some extent, as well the storage, but more the chipset and the RAM. You're gonna have some computers that are also gonna have something regarding graphics, but if you're not doing anything for graphics, you really don't need to worry about it. Just the basic option will do. So the chipset, what I would say is really nowadays, if you're buying a computer now, right now, even if it has a chipset, a chip that is from last year, you will be okay, right? You don't really need to worry too much. Where you need to pay a little bit more attention to that is if it's something that you're buying second hand and is, he has a chip that that is older um, than 5 years and more, then you need to be a little bit more, pay a little bit more attention to some other stuff and make sure maybe you have like a bigger RAM over here, right? One thing with the Macs over here, they came up with those M1 chip. I think now for the last 2, 3, are we going 3 years? And those chips are really great on performance and as well energy efficient, right? With some of the other chipset that they had there with Intel, you would do one thing or two and then the fan would go off. It was just a mess, right? But now you can work and it's really silent. You don't. It's able to do a lot more as well. So this is really great. You have some equivalent as well on the Windows side. I mean, you know, kind of equivalent, but M1 is really something that if you can invest M1 and if you're doing audio production, those kind of thing, I think that would be really a great choice. But it does cost a lot. Okay, the RAM over here. So for the RAM, I would say if you have so basically the choices that people have will be 8 gig, 16, 32, and 64. With 8 gig, I would say that you would be able to open FL Studio. Before playing it, probably you're gonna have a lot of issues playing, um, projects, right? Even with just using stock plugins, you're gonna have a lot of issues there, right? I would say minimum you would be to go with 16. 16 that will allow you to do quite a bit with your computer, open it, add instrument and that, but you're gonna get to a point, even 10 plugins added there, cool, 10 plugins, let's say for virtual instrument and for virtual effects, yeah, you're gonna feel it, right? You might not be that intense, but you're gonna start noticing that something is off. So I would say you're gonna be able to open project, you're gonna be able to play projects, but for the most intensive project, maybe 10%, 20% there of project, you might feel that something is a little bit off, right? What I would say, if we're in 2022, a lot of those plugins are now some of those plugins because they do quite a bit, quite a lot with the graphics and all that, and basically they require more resources. I would say go with 32 if you can. You will be with 32 really at that point. You really don't need to worry about too much unless you need to record like 36 people, those kind of things. Then you really need to go with something a lot more, a lot even more performant than that, right? With the storage over here, like I say, it doesn't matter too much, but things to keep in mind. So you have SSD, which is solid state drive, stands for mean solid state drive. You have the other kind, which is HHD or HD. I believe this is HHD, but I don't know what is the HH. I know hard drive is there, but the first H, I'm not. I forgot what it means. The thing with that is HHD. It's a lot more mechanical. There is a lot of parts moving. It's a lot less performant compared to SSD, and it might fail even depending, as far as ownership, SSD is gonna last longer with you compared to having something with HDD, right? So the other thing to keep in mind here is, even though when it comes to tax, the RAM is gonna be the one that's gonna be used the most. The storage is used as well sometimes by the computer, especially when storing temporary files, those kind of things. So if you come to a point, usually even if you have a good chip and you have a good RAM, if you come to a point where you just have about 10 gigabyte left over here, or 20 gigabyte left, so just very few amount of space for storage, you're gonna feel that your computer is gonna be sluggish, right? Just because it's not able to have all the space that it needs to really do all the tasks that it's supposed to. So those are the things to keep in mind when it comes. But you're gonna see the higher configuration that you're gonna select here, the bigger is gonna be the price. One of the things now that that is usually that is happening even more and more is when you purchase something, you're able to purchase it, with a payment plan, so you can purchase it and pay it, uh, 4 times, 6 times, or 12 times, right? So every month you have a certain amount you need to pay. The only thing you need to keep to pay attention to that is what's going to be the interest rate, because it could be that it's 0%, but it could be there's an interest rate with that. Um, and with the if there's interest rate with that, it means that the price that you're going to pay is going to be a lot more than the original price if you had paid from the get go. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. I didn't really discuss any specific model here because there are just so many ranges in prices and all that, but keep those elements in mind when you're going and buying. If you have the opportunity to save the money and buy it from the outset, so you don't get into any debt or anything like that, that's what I would recommend. um, and let's move up here to Windows. So Windows is a lot more fragmented. You have like just so many brands out there that you're able to choose from, right? With Mac, it's a lot easier. You just go to one website, you select the configuration that you need, and then you're basically good to go. With Windows, some brands that I would recommend, again, just keep in mind the it's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna the thing that we discussed here for configuration is gonna be the same that you're gonna take into account when you're selecting a Windows as well. But the RAM can be different a little bit. Like I say, uh, if you buying something from as of today, that is pretty recent. Um, when it comes to chip and all that, you know it might not be the best performant one, but it's gonna be good for whatever you need to do. Okay, so as far as brands, I recommend Razer. Razer is a little bit more targeted to gamers, but it's good for us, right? Because games are really intensive as well, right? To play all those graphics and all that, and that goes into it, and the RAM. So if you have something that is really good for games, it's probably going to be good as well for audio production, right? So you have Razer there, which is great. You have Dell. I would say the XPS line model is probably one that I think works well. Even though I tend to find it's a little bit more suited for professional. Like when I say professional, like working, like office work, but it does come with some great configuration there that are good, right? Lenovo as well is pretty decent. Is a fair brand. They last longer. I find the computer do last quite a bit. Um, I mean, as far as when we're talking about Windows computers, right? Because I just find that Macs are just, as far as longevity, is just probably the best out there. And you have ASUS as well. And like I say, so most of the thing really, if you find maybe there's a new brand by the time you're watching this video, maybe there is a new brand out there or a new line that any of those guys or another manufacturer has that is geared towards gaming. um, I would probably say that's another good choice, because if it's good for games, you won't have any problem with audio production. So that's what I have for you, and let's get into the next video.